A paradox. Life was stricter in the 1970s, but people, especially young people, had more freedom. Don't believe it? Well, consider the tween-age phenomena of camping out in the backyard. Would today's helicopter parents expose their precious angels to the dangers of being kidnapped or falling victim to a serial killer? Probably not. But we had no problem sleeping out circa 1972. Maybe our folks were hoping we'd be kidnapped. I never asked. I guess I didn't really want to know. But one hot summer night in '72, we were lying on our sleeping bags inside the stifling interior of a tent in Rap's backyard. It was the usual crew, and we were too bored or lazy to move. Too lazy to go to the 24-hour ranch supermarket for chips or old port Colts, rum-flavored, wine-tipped. Too lazy to go to Tim Hortons. We exhausted all the jokes we knew, both clean and obscene, and were reduced to such grade 2 classics as, "What did the floor say to the wall? Meet you at the corner." We'd also run through all the ghost stories and urban legends. The Hook, Don't Look Back, Bloody Mary, Humans Can Lick Too, the Spiders in the Hairdo. They all got a yawn. We'd all heard them a million times before. "I think the school library is haunted," I said. I didn't have any proof it was haunted, but the classroom always gave off a weird and dismal feeling any time I was alone in it, especially on cloudy afternoons with the overhead lights turned off. I always felt like someone or something was watching me. Of course, there were rumors about kids who died at school or offed themselves because of the mean teachers, but no one ever had any particulars, as in the kid's name and what really happened to them. So it was just a feeling, but I sometimes did wonder, could it be haunted? My comment fell on deaf ears. Nobody cared if it was haunted or not. But someone was listening, because Rap said, "Let's sneak into the school." Shemp snorted, not loudly. "How could we do that?" Turns out it was easy, back then. Back in the '70s, there was no CCTV, and few places had security systems. So all you had to do to enter a building like the school was to climb through an open window. In this case, it was the window of the supply room, which, according to Rap, was always left open about an inch above the bottom of the window frame. So we simply raised it, and voila, we were inside. I was the one who said the school library was haunted. But haunted or not, it was creepy to be inside a deserted building at night, in the dark. Our footsteps echoed in the empty hallways, even though we tried to be quiet. At least, most of us. "Hey, where's all the ghosties?" Rick bellowed, his deafening voice releasing a cacophony of echoes. The echoes eventually died down, but then the silence was broken by a loud crash. "What the?" we all said at once, and I answered the question with, "I think it came from the library." "You and your haunted library," Rick snorted. At this point, I was in favor of heading back to the tent, but Rap said, "Let's check it out." As I said, I always found the library a weird and dismal place in daytime, But it was appalling in the semi-darkness. And on the floor we found a stack of books, which had evidently fallen off a nearby shelf. "That's what made the noise," Shemp said. "Yeah," I replied. "But why did they fall off?" We were interrupted by Rapp turning on Rick and stammering, What did you hit me for?" "I didn't hit you." "Well, then who did?" "Oh, you'd know if I hit you." And then something pinched my ear. But there was no one close to me who could have done it. I realized in an instant what was happening. It's a ghost. A poltergeist, I think." "Oh, a ghosty," Rick said with disgust. "Oh, who's shit?" Rapp wanted to know. For just then the room was filled with the most appalling stench I've ever been forced to breathe. It was so bad, it made me glad supper had been hours earlier. Otherwise, barf. But before we could accuse each other of being the stinker, the foul odor was replaced by a bone-rattling chill, a deep freeze which left us chattering and shaking like we were having fits. Without a word, we all made for the open doorway. And the damn door slammed shut. Rick tore at it frantically, and even though Rapp was swearing at him to pull the effing thing open, the big guy cried, "I can't budge it." I heard Shemp gasp behind me, and I whirled around to see the room was possessed. Books flew off the shelves, danced through the air, while the big oak table by the window began spinning, and the chairs capered about like they were dancing. The globe on the librarian's desk was spinning, like it was planning to take off. Shemp instinctively reached out to grab one of the chairs, only to be violently thrown aside, crashing into Rapp and slamming him against the wall. The door suddenly flew open and we flew out. The door then slammed shut behind us, opened, and slammed shut again. And then all was silent. I think we all breathed a sigh of relief. Silence, blessed silence, until we heard someone shout, "Hey!" We froze, figuring we were busted, and given what was happening, we were almost happy to be caught. We waited for the cop or janitor or teacher or whatever to come and collar us, but nothing happened. I thought I heard Rapp began to say, but Rick interrupted with, "What the hell is that?" In the gathering gloom, at the far end of the hall, we could make out a white spherical object which appeared to be floating, and as we watched, it suddenly became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as it came flying towards us, mouth agape, shrieking like a banshee. I don't know how we got out of there. I dimly remember climbing the fence, and then we were back in the tent, gasping for breath, not even worrying about waking up the old folks. It was about 20 minutes before anyone spoke. Then Rapp whispered, still short of air, "That must have been a floater." "Hey, what about that stuff in the library?" I managed to say. We just scared ourselves. Like a bunch of little kids," Rick choked out. "What about the books?" I said. They fell down." "The awful smell?" Somebody farted." I gave up. We just lay there, waiting for our heart rates to go down. Then Shemp said, "Let's not go back." Nobody argued for once. We just lay there, falling asleep, Rick murmuring, "Bet we imagined the whole thing." And that's when we heard it. A low, ominous chuckle right outside the tent. Something slapped the canvas wall next to where I lay. It could have been a hand, or a disembodied human head throwing itself against the tent. And then we heard a mocking voice say, ever so softly, "Good night, boys. Pleasant dreams." We stayed put for the rest of the night. But we didn't sleep. Or even close our eyes.